I'm gonna go to my ultimate reason why I said I believe Russ is a better player than Chris Paul. Like you'll run to that. You'll run to some other points that were made throughout the argument. Like how I said, I think Russ is a more dynamic player than Chris Paul. I think it's harder for defenses to stop Russ. I think it's harder to stop a team led by Russ. I think Russ is a more dynamic player. And that's that. He scores more. He assists to the same level. He rebounds better.
That's it. That's it.
And he defends close enough. What do you mean? I'm done.
He does not.
He doesn't defend close enough, but that just sounds like a box score argument.
Chris Paul's a very overrated defender.
That's fine, but what you did was just say more points per game, similar assists, more rebounds. So that's just anyone could go on Basketball Reference and make that argument.
What do you mean anybody?
Anyone could do that.
If you watch the game, you see that as well.
Anyone could do that. I'm just saying, if I did that, I'm the stat guy.
I actually said that, Mars. I actually said that for you. Mars, I actually said that for you.
Once again, you guys went to 1 point when I said he's the more dynamic player and he's harder to game plan around and stop. Nobody said nothing.
How's it harder to game plan? Okay, how's it harder to game plan around Russ?
Because how are you going to stop Russ?
Did you not watch how they stopped Russ
in
2020?
No, I'm not.
Did you not stop how they stopped Russ in 2020, 2019, 2018? Like, did you not see how he got stopped?
You're being nasty.
2016, did you not see how he got stopped?
Both his MVP season and his seasons with KD.
Okay, so 2017.
Yeah.
I don't think he got stopped. I think they would have won that series if he played on the court more, because they actually won the series while he was on the court. That's fine. 2016, Golden State's whole game plan was centered around leaving guys like Russ and Andre Roberson to shoot the ball. That stopped the OKC offense because Russell Westbrook, as a point guard, couldn't space the floor. And he needed the ball to be effective. But when you go under every ball screen, it's easier to pack the paint on someone when you don't have to go over a screen. Okay, so that was the way they stopped Russell Westbrook.
That's been the case with Russ his whole career.
Okay, so there's been a game plan to stop Russ for 15 years.
Time out. Going under a screen has not stopped Russ his whole career. Russ is still going to get to the basket.
In the playoffs.
He's still going to facilitate at a very high level.
Stop him in the playoffs.
You said what?
No, he does assist at a very high level because, like I said, all you have to do is look at the box score to see that. But when we watch these games, we can see that. I'm not finished.
And you watch the game and see him.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Because when we watch those Russell Westbrook playoff series that you are talking about, we also see that when teams go under the screen, not only is it harder for him to get to the rim, the rim is more packed, and that leads to him making more reckless decisions and turning the ball over, something you care about a whole lot more. It also leads to the scoring you value a lot going much further down in terms of efficiency because he can't score from outside of 7 feet. So that's also a way that teams stop Russell Westbrook. So going under screens is actually a very valid tactic. Also, when he doesn't have the ball, teams helping off of Russ and him not being able to capitalize on that as much as a guy like Chris Paul could, like we saw next to James Harden. Chris Paul looked much better next to James Harden than Russell Westbrook did, especially in the playoffs. For that reason, the Lakers put Anthony Davis on Russell Westbrook and used him as a free safety defender because all they had to do was leave Russell Westbrook wide the fuck open and he couldn't do anything. That is not something you could do with Chris Paul. The game plan to stop Chris Paul is pray he gets injured. The game plan to stop Russell Westbrook is he can't shoot. We are aware of that. So we're going to put either one of our best big man defenders on him or our worst perimeter defender on him when he doesn't have the ball. Or we're going to make sure we pack the paint on him and either force him to take ill-advised shots, which we know he is prone to do, or he's going to make reckless decisions and turn the ball over. That's the game plan to stop Russell Westbrook. So if you could enlighten me on how teams stop Chris Paul without bringing up the fact he gets hurt, I'd love to hear it.
Yo, you just did that whole thing with Russell Westbrook, and that was beautiful. You acknowledge all his deficiencies that we do know that Russ does. Yes, he turns the ball over a lot. He's inefficient at times. But then you're still not hoping on the fact that I said he's one of the most dynamic players of all time.
Yeah, he's fantastically dynamic.
Russ will do all of that and still give you 27, 10, and 10. And that's something that Chris Paul won't do. That's
like I said, it's the box score. The argument is the box score. That's fine.
It's not just the box score.
Is Russell Westbrook better than Jason Kidd? Is Russell Westbrook better than Jason Kidd?
Chris Paul because of the box score.
No, it's not because
27, 10, and 10 is what? If it's not the box score.
It's not because of the box score.
If that's not box score, then what is?
Yeah, what's box score if it's 27, 10, and 10 isn't box score?
Like how I just told you guys, he's going to score more points for my team. He's going to give you
You're just explaining what the box score is.
He's going to give you the same amount of playmaking. No, he's going to rebound at a better level. He's going to push the break. He's going to push the break. He's going to find the open shooters that Chris Paul does too. And so, like,
you're just explaining what the box score is. You're just explaining.
I mean, I guess if that's what if that's what explaining what the box score is, then that's what it is.
Scoring more points equals points per game. Rebounding more equals rebounds per game. Same level of playmaking, as you said, is assists per game. That's the box score. That's what you just did.
Let's talk about Chris Paul. So I can say that you guys.
Yeah, I asked you for the game plan to stop Chris Paul. I did, and then you went to the box score.
The game plan to stop Chris Paul is to let Chris Paul do what Chris Paul does.
No, it's for him to get hurt. That's the game plan. Bro.
That's what Morris said.
It's for him to get hurt.
It's been serious when Chris Paul's been hit.
What is the schematic way? What is the
Yeah, the 2014 against OKC, he choked in the fourth quarter, I think, of Game 5. That's fine.
Wrong. No.
But what's the game plan? What do teams do that limits Chris Paul in the playoffs?
The same way that Mars broke down Russell Westbrook and the way to stop him schematically. How do you schematically stop Chris Paul?
Thank you.
It's a couple schemes with Chris Paul.
Yeah, they
Which
are.
is?
I mean, you throw different defenses at him in terms of the pick and roll. On top of that, my thing with Chris Paul is you just let him score. You let Chris Paul be the number one option, and that in and of itself is a formula for disaster.
So the different pick and roll coverages, what are you referring to? I've seen one pick and roll coverage slow down Chris Paul, and it was last year when he was 37. So throughout his career, because you didn't want me to use this current version of Russ, so we are gonna have to look past this current version of Chris Paul.
The thing about it is, and here's where Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook are both great within their own factors. Chris Paul, you're not gonna stop him in the pick and roll much. Russ, you're not going to stop Russ from getting to the rim. Hold on, I'm getting to my point. Relax. I'm getting to my point. So they're both unstoppable in both of those facets. So Chris Paul's going to be in a pick and roll for a large part of the game. You're not going to necessarily just stop Chris Paul. But here's the thing is you're going to throw different defenses at him. So you're going to double him sometimes. Sometimes you're going to play drop coverage. Sometimes you're going to hedge hard on him. Sometimes you're going to want the point guard to go under the screen. Sometimes you're going to want to switch the pick and roll. It's throwing different things at him like that. But like how I said, in terms of Chris Paul, how you stop Chris Paul, you're not necessarily going to stop him. But what I think is, Mars, you're not going to stop Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook. They're both two great basketball players. You're not going to stop them. The only thing you can do is hope to slow them down. But when it comes to Chris Paul, I just let Chris Paul go. Chris Paul, you be the number one option. Beat us with your scoring. And it's not going to happen.
And you think if you allow Chris Paul to go off, they'd be worse off?
Yeah, if you let Chris Paul score, if you let Chris Paul be that number one option, I don't think that they will win.
I seen him send San Antonio home, so I had to disagree. Number two, he also did a phenomenal job against the Clippers in 2021, but that's two.
The only way teams let Chris Paul score is when his co-stars are hurt, so he has to score more, and they lose because he's missing his best player. When guys like Blake Griffin are out for the Clippers, and Chris Paul inevitably loses because he doesn't have his second best player, and he then has to score more points.
So what did he do when Blake Griffin was there?
He then got hurt, and the one time they were healthy in 2014, they lost to the OKC Thunder. And I've admitted that I think it was Game 4 or Game 5 of that series, Chris Paul had the worst last 2 minutes of a game I've ever seen him have. But once again, that's not schematically slowing down Chris Paul. We've seen Russell Westbrook get schematically slowed down or played out of a series. With Chris Paul, what we've seen is A, him get hurt, B, his team get hurt, or see him lose to better teams. So that's different to being schematically stopped.
Like had bad series,
but even then,
I agree. He's had bad series, but that doesn't mean he was schematically shut down.
Wait, hold on, boys. I want to address this. Hold on.
I'm asking you how he was slowed down, and you're telling me teams send different coverages on a pick and roll.
Time out.
But Mars, wait, Ron, because I need to say this, because let's say we do take your word for it on that, right? They have to throw a variety of different coverages to try and stop Chris Paul compared to Russell Westbrook,
where it's literally coverage.
It's damn near just one. It's damn near just one. So therefore, CP3 is the guy who's harder to stop in a playoff series, because it's not just one thing that you could go to try to slow him down. You need to throw a multiple variety of things in order for him to slow down. That therefore, you just made the argument for me that CP3 is harder to slow down in the postseason than Russell Westbrook. You just made the argument for me.
No.
You literally just made it for me.
No. Just because you're doing multiple coverages on the pick and roll does not make you harder to stop.
That's exactly what.
Considering none of them stop him, yes, it would in turn make him harder.
And nobody stops Russell Westbrook either. That I said.
Teams have stopped Russell Westbrook. Teams have stopped Russell Westbrook.
Saying that.
Teams have stopped Russell Westbrook.
When?
The Miami Heat in 2012 in the finals, Russell Westbrook did not have a good series. And we all are aware of the fact that A, they played on the fact that he wasn't a great decision maker, and B, they played on the fact that he couldn't shoot the ball. That is a series where he didn't. Yeah, he played Miami in the finals. He didn't have a great series. 2013, I think he got hurt, so I'm not gonna blame him.
He got hurt against the.
I think he got hurt against. I think he got hurt against Houston and missed the Memphis series. I'm not gonna blame him for that. 2014, who did they play? The Spurs. Russell Westbrook, once again, I'm not going to blame him for the loss, but the Spurs were also made a very conscious decision of A, letting Russell Westbrook shoot, and B, they were able to load up on Kevin Durant for those reasons. 2015, they missed the playoffs because KD was hurt. 2016, I already relayed how Golden State played off of Russ and Andre Roberson to slow down the OKC offense. 2017, I said I'm not going to blame him because of the fact that they lost while he was on the bench. But even in that series, he was dreadfully inefficient for the reasons I've relayed. The 2018 Utah series, Dub wants to say he blames Paul George. That's fine. I'm blaming Russell Westbrook, A, for terrible decision-making, in my opinion, trucking up a bunch of ill-advised shots in a game where he took 20 threes, which is ridiculous for Russell Westbrook. And if you want to talk about all this great playmaking, in my opinion, when you're taking 43 shots, the playmaking isn't really elevating your team, in my opinion. But you want to say that that's not being game planned against? 2019 against Portland, with the worst defensive backcourt in the NBA, Russell Westbrook still struggled against a team with no rim protection because teams are able to play on the fact he can't shoot the ball. 2020 against Houston, I told you how they had Anthony Davis on Russell Westbrook. 2021, I think he was hurt for Washington, so I'm not going to blame him for that. And now we're at the present day with Russell Westbrook. I've gone through every year of Russell Westbrook's career and told you how teams are able to stop Russell Westbrook. And all you've done is tell me teams do Chris. All you've done and told me is Chris Paul.
I'm not.
And all you've done, I know you don't have to. All you said is teams play different coverage.
Series, and I gotta leave in a second too. All I'm saying is Russell Westbrook's peak clears Chris Paul. Russell Westbrook at his best was better than Chris Paul at his best. The only thing you guys can say is that defenses go under Russ and that Chris Paul can shoot better and his assist to turnover ratio is better. Okay,
Chris Paul makes better
as
decisions.
A point guard. Yes, so as a point guard, I'm getting to that. As a point guard, Chris Paul is a better point guard. He's a better decision maker. He's a better floor general. There's no denying that. As a player who's more dynamic and can do more on the basketball floor, Russell Westbrook does more than Chris Paul.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Okay, well, we can agree to disagree.
That's just not true.
We can agree to disagree. At his best,
he rebounds better and gets to the rim.
Best, So you guys are gonna tell me that any year Chris Paul's year was better than MVP Russ?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Yeah, the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.